A distant heir and black sheep of stuffy British aristocracy plots the murder of all 8 heirs between him and being named Duke of Chalfont, after they disregard and disown his mother for marrying below her station, in the 1949 dark comedy Kind Hearts and Coronets, starring Dennis Price and Alec Guinness. And that's the movie we're unearthing this week on Movie Bones.
Standing by Mamma's poor little grave in that hideous suburban cemetery, I made an oath that I would revenge the wrongs her family had done her. It was no more than a piece of youthful bravado, but it was one of those acorns from which great oaks are destined to grow. Even then I went so far as to examine the family tree and prune it to just the living members. But what could I do to hurt them? What could I take from them? Except perhaps their lives.
Except perhaps their lives. That was Lewis, played by Dennis Price, narrating his murderous intentions to the audience in the wake of the injustices, insults, and injuries inflicted by his mother's family for marrying outside of her class, which he then spends the rest of the movie carrying out that vengeance one person at a time. And I have to say, Lewis is a pretty fascinating character on his own. There's something in the combination of Price's performance and the script that flow almost poetically. Kind of makes the whole bloodthirsty endeavor kind of, dare I say, fun in a way? In a guilty sort of way, doesn't it?
You know what? I don't want this to seem like it's going ahead and giving any kind of review, but I don't know why. There was quite a bit of this film that I was sitting there going, there was something missing for me from a lot of the film.
Okay.
I will say from the outset, I thought the story was really unique. It's one of those movies where you're kind of like, you want to root for him, but you're also sitting there going, you're a terrible human being.
Oh, yeah. In fact, that tension, that tension you just described, that's a perfect way to sum it up, and for me at least. And that was the source of a lot of the, I guess it is in a weird way, kind of, it's interesting. It's a pleasure for the mind to think about, to wrestle with, because for me, it's like, why am I feeling the way I do right now? Because there are times it's like you feel sympathy. The movie sets up, to be in his corner initially, because they do treat him and his mother really awfully. They really wipe their shoes off of him. And so you're kind of in his corner initially, but then you start to getting to the part where he's going to carry this stuff out. And even from even one of the guys is like the guy who kind of the first guy he kills is kind of, he's really smug and arrogant and it's like, okay, I won't entirely miss this guy, obviously. But at the same time, it's like when he actually does the deed, he sets the boat free, goes over the edge. It's like, you don't know what to feel exactly. Sometimes it's worse than others. There's some of them who probably never even touched a letter or dignified their, or had no idea what was going on behind the scenes of their family with regards to his mother and his situation. But like the photographer guy, that kind of bugged me. Although it was still kind of funny too. The way they played it off is with the sound effect of all things, That got me. So it's like, yeah, I'm wrestling with all these kind of conflicting feelings, but not in a way that made it feel disjointed, right? I mean, at least not for me. I mean, for me, it felt like this is actually making me think about things more deeply or feel, reflective on my feelings, as opposed to just being, the script doesn't know what it's trying to get across, which is not what I got at all, but it felt intentional.
No. It knew exactly what it was doing. And I think for me, it was maybe sometimes more of the execution of it. The only thing, and I will say, the only thing that kind of felt confusing to me, and I'm going to chalk this up to just being, a very British film. There was times I was like, this movie, it feels like it's taking itself a little bit more seriously than it should. Because you do have these, I don't want to say these serious moments, but you have this kind of you felt the darkness around it, and the deaths were over the top, but they didn't feel over the top. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly. But yeah, he pushes people down a waterfall. They don't even try to save themselves. You've got which they're funny deaths. There's, quite a few funny deaths.
Before we were married, he had few interests. He used to spend the greater part of each day at his club. I felt that such a life was unhealthy and persuaded him to come and live here in the country.
I shot an arrow in the air. She fell to earth in Berkeley Square.
Stuff like that, you have the musical overtures, you've got the sound effect death. For me, that was perfect. That's
and that's the thing. Like, that's another thing too. Like, I was going to bring up shooting an arrow in the air, because when you watch that scene, it's just so ridiculous.
He's doing it out of a window of an apartment.
Yes, in a good way. It's so ridiculous in a good way. So I'm not taking away from how they did it. It just, there was times when I was watching this movie and I'm like, it feels like you're trying to be slapstick comedy. That's working. And it also feels like you're trying to be somewhat of a drama. And that was getting to me, because the drama part is also working.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a way it does. Yeah. It's like, because it's not over the top. I think this may have to do with whether or not an individual person's taste can incorporate the very dry kind of British sense of humor. Yeah. Because I think that's what's at play here. If this was an American film, it would be a little bit more sloppy in a way. It wouldn't be as neat and tidy and prim. I think either you like that or you don't. And I guess for me, I'm a kind of a sucker for that.
I am a fan of dry humor. It just, it's one of those things where it wasn't 100%. That does not mean it's not good. It just wasn't 100% clicking with me and everything. And the other thing, I'm going to get to the other thing in a little bit. I was a bit surprised as the film was going on. I'm like, is nobody like truly suspecting this guy yet?
There was a time I thought that too.
Yeah. Because because you're sitting there and you're watching him just, he's really close to the family. They all start dropping like flies. There's even that moment where he's in the office and, the guy's like, all these untimely deaths, you're actually up for or you're pretty close to being the heir to the dukedom.
Yeah.
And everything. And I'm just going to go ahead and name you that. And I'm like, you're not suspecting him like at all?
There was enough of I think when you combine it with, because he gets lucky sometimes in terms of coincidences, like the naval captain. One of the heirs is a naval captain, and because he just happens to be an idiot at one point, and he crashes into another boat, and he's the only one that goes down to the ship, he's saluting even as he goes down.
That's the kind of humor that I really enjoy. That that accidental type of stuff.
Yeah.
And someone is too stubborn to, kind of save themselves. Like, I wouldn't say I lost it, but I was chuckling quite a bit in there in that scene, because it's just he's got those moments. I think it's 2 moments where he doesn't do anything and the people just they die. That's that moment. And the other one was it was a funny scene. I don't know if it was off the heels of that guy's death, but he's explaining it to us. We have the scene where the pallbearers are taking one casket, and then as he's still talking, because what's happening is he's narrating it to us. Because the movie starts out, for you folks that want to know, but the movie starts out where he's been caught. And you can't see it, but I've got my quotation marks around that. We'll get to that maybe in a little bit. But he's been caught, and so he's writing his memoirs before he's to go to the gallows. And he's talking about someone's death. I feel like it might have been the general's death.
It was the one, wait, yeah. I don't know, was that one or the one? No, it was the one where he shot the guy. It was point blank with the shotgun.
No, it wasn't the last death.
No, the last death was his employer, who died because he was already in ill health, and the shock of hearing his only other. Yeah,
that was really good setup.
It was,
because he's oh, there's one more. Oh, but he actually died too, kind of thing. Yeah. I did enjoy that. Like I said, there's a lot of enjoyable parts of this movie. Well, I'm definitely not taking away from what we're watching. I just thought there was times I was sitting there going, I kind of want to see it redone.
I think this is one of those movies. It's not classic enough that it's untouchable for any stretch. And there's still plenty of good material there, like you noted, to base something off of. I didn't get the kind of discharged feeling between the drama as much as you did, so maybe that didn't factor in for me as much. I do recognize those parts, though. I mean, I was thinking about, Lewis's character more in depth this morning, and I was thinking about him. I was like, until this whole situation comes up with, the mom's death, he doesn't actually have a plan for his life. I don't know if he would know what to do with himself if he didn't have revenge. And there's a subplot, of course, with the 2 women he's interested in. At first, Sibella, who is she's kind of manipulator of her own kind of a thing. She's in it for wealth and money, but she finds that boring with the guy she married. She doesn't mind having dalliances with Lewis. But Lewis isn't invested in her either. But even the woman he does, what's her name? Edith. His interest in her is purely kind of it's almost like he's collecting her as a token as a reward, because she's a shiny object. She's an object of respect, and she has dignity. And I admire that, but more like one admires a fine painting, but not as a person.
I would have liked to see that moment, because I just like to see it in character growth. I would have liked to see that moment to where maybe he's like rethinking all of this, especially as, he gets closer to Edith, because it did feel like at one point, the writers, whoever wrote this movie, it did feel like there was maybe that like moment where whoever, when they sat down to write this, they were thinking to themselves, like, legitimately get closer. It felt like that was possibly there at some point. So, and I like to see in character growth, even if he manages to stay the same, I like to see in character growth or character development, a character start to question what they're doing. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is he on the right path? Should he give it up? Should he just kind of like retire from all of this and go live a happier life? We didn't get that. And I'm not saying that's a big, big drawback for the movie, but I am saying that like that's something that I would have liked to see. Instead, we just get this kind of flatness to him. And that flatness is, he stays on the same path the whole entire time.
But yeah, I mean, it's like what you said before about is, you could take a turn where he makes a decision more early in the film where it becomes more dramatic that way. I think that if you were to veer away from like the line of dark comedy, then you could take a step in either direction, make it more pure comedy or make it more pure drama. And I think that would be going the more pure drama way. I think alternately, like you said, you could make it more pure comedy because he doesn't really learn. There's not much what I would call character growth or depth here. The world changes around the character. Or I should say it's like the circumstances change, and it's the changing circumstances that keep it interesting.
Another thing I liked about this film, that ending. I thought the ending was like, I thought that was really kind of funny. And,
oh, yeah.
So he's writing his memoir. He finishes his memoir. The moment he finishes his memoir, he's basically released from prison, which awesome. That's great. When he walked out of that room, I was like, I actually said it out loud. I couldn't even help it. Like it was audible. I was like, you idiot. Because he leaves it there on the table. And like, the way I thought it was going to end, I thought it was going to end like him walking out of prison and then immediately being put back in. Like, all right, we, got to take you and everything. But it ends, I think the ending is much better than what I was thinking was going to happen. I want to say that. It ends with him having to make a choice and then or wrestling with a choice. And then this reporter comes up who's like, hey, we want to write, we want to, publish a memoir and everything. And like, that's when he realizes that his memoir is
locked inside. And it's not just inside, it's locked inside. He's already outside and the door's locked again. It's like, oh, excuse me, I left something behind. Can I come out and get it? It's like, what did you leave behind? It makes it so that all the awfulness is like, you kind of really see that it's not likely he's going to go unpunished at this point. He's probably still going to face the gallows. But yeah, so it's like it does at least close that sense of justice on the character because he is pretty awful. It's like, yes, he was wrong, but he's still pretty awful, and you are constantly getting that message throughout the film.
I did have one other gripe with the movie, and I told you about that last night.
Yes,
and
there's
not a big
tidbit.
gripe, but like Alec Guinness plays multiple roles in this movie, and I felt like we did not have enough Alec Guinness in this movie. That was a big thing for me. I say that to say, like, I think it would have done a much better job of letting us get to know the characters a bit more, the characters that he was playing, because he played them all. And when I say all, he played everyone that was in that family that he killed. He even played like the sister.
Yeah, which I wish he had more speaking role. They do at least let him out as a sister, as going around because she's like for not Women's Lib. Was it Women's Lib or something like that? But anyway, she's crashing through windows in a very, Carrie Nation or somebody, really, and she's getting arrested. But it's like seeing Alec Guinness dressed like that and then going and trashing things up like that. That was a hoot.
Yeah, and see, that was only, honestly, I think was like, I think it was kind of disservice to the movie, or to the story itself. Did you hear that?
Oh, I heard. Is that thunder?
Yeah, it's thunder. But it's a disservice to the movie just itself.
Oh, wow.
Anyways.
Weather happening
folks,
live, folks.
Yeah.
Live on Movie Bones, it's the weather.
I'll wait for just a second before it starts. It should stop rumbling here in a second. Anyways, I think it was just a slight disservice to the movie or the story itself, to not have a little bit more in-depth characters and everything. Because like for instance, the general dying, seeing maybe his overzealousness, or even almost just a hint, not a lot, but just a hint of his ridiculousness would have probably drawn out a little bit more that scene that, he goes down with the ship.
Yes.
I just think it could have had more Alec Guinness in it. And Alec Guinness he did a really good job, but he felt like a side character. It just felt like he wasn't as there in the movie as I would have liked him to be. And I just think that was, that was kind of a drawback for me.
I think if I was to call out like a problem I had with the film, if at all, it's like there's something about the way that they balance the scenes, bouncing back and forth, that felt a little bit disjointed at times. I guess it's bound to happen a little bit. I can understand the difficulty. You've got all these 8 people, these 8 characters, all played by Alec Guinness. You've got to juggle a little bit at least. And the 2 love interests, if you want to call them that, to juggle as well. And, it's a lot to do. So, but it just didn't feel very smooth at times. Of all the plots against all the different that he carries out, the one that struck me as the one that was most obviously murder. The general, the military guy, where he puts a bomb in the caviar. Okay, come on. Okay, the others are more subtle. This is not subtle.
Yeah.
You put a bomb in caviar, someone's going to figure that out. Anyway, that was of all the deaths, that was my only gripe in terms of that was the least clean. But overall, it's it's not a perfect film. It's a trust me,
I get that. For me, it's a. I would actually say it belongs in a museum.
Yeah, I figured we wouldn't be too far apart.
Honestly, go watch the movie. It's a fun time. It's not a bad time. It's not an uber long film or anything like that. And you will get some kicks out of it, especially if you do like dry humor.
And I do.
You'll sit there and go, because you'll see what they're trying to do, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it is a little bit much, but it's not a bad film.
So at this time, we'd like to remind the listening audience out there that if you're having a good time with Ryan and me dusting off all these old movies in search of celluloid treasure, please do like, subscribe, comment, and of course, follow us on your podcast purveyor of choice. Tell us what you think we got wrong, because we're human beings, we're fallible, and tell us any titles you'd like us to see cover on future episodes. As long as they're available for free on Tubi or similar, because this adventure comes with no strings attached. And on that subject of future episodes, Ryan, we've got something upcoming next week, and I have not seen this one at all, and I don't think you have either, have you?
No, but we got a sports movie.
Well, sports in the title.
Yeah, Tubi, if you're lying to me about what's going on here, I'm going to be a little bit annoyed with you, because you're obviously watching our podcast.
Obviously, or you should be. Tubi out there, you should be watching us. People at Tubi.
Our next film is titled The Sporting Life, starring Richard Harris, Rachel Roberts, Alan Bedell, I hope I said their name right, and William Hartnell. It's directed by Lindsay Anderson. And despite his success on the field, a rising rugby star senses the emerging emptiness of his life as his inner angst materializes through brutality. That right there is interesting.
Yeah.
Enough for me to want to be like, okay, let's see what's going on here. And I say sports movie, sports has to be some kind of focus of this movie. Maybe not a lot, but
Well, it says success in the field. I'm imagining a soccer field. No, it says rugby in particular. It says rugby. So I always confuse. Rugby is not football or soccer. It's its own thing. It's also brutal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like a really engaging premise. I'm looking forward to seeing what it's about. And this is the first film I think I've seen with Richard Harris this young in him, as being this young. And I can't think of too many other Richard Harris movies. Have you seen any? Unforgiven was the last one I think I've seen with him in it. That was a long time ago.
The name sounds super familiar. So that means I've definitely seen something with him in it, or maybe not. Actually, no, I take that back. I've seen Gladiator.
Was he in that?
Oh, never mind. He's Dumbledore.
Was he? I guess he was one of the 2 Dumbledore. I guess. Was he the first or the second Dumbledore?
He was the early Dumbledore. He was in Philosopher's Stones and Chamber of Secrets. And he played I'm about to say Aristotle, and that's not Aristotle. He played Meditations is Oh gosh, my philosophy background is going to kick me in the keister here. Marcus Aurelius, not Marcus
Okay.
Aurelius. No. I got to be correct. Yeah, it is Marcus Aurelius. Ryan. He played Marcus Aurelius, the famous philosopher, in lesser known role as Roman emperor.
Okay.
It does make me wonder because I'll be honest with you. He has this kind of like in his older roles, because I've seen his older roles, I feel like he's got this very distinct voice. I kind of wonder if that kind of the same distinct voice will be in that movie.
And I've always associated a very distinctive face, and so it's
Yes,
just
he's
one
got
of
a very distinctive face as well.
too. So,
But yeah, I'm kind of curious now. Of course, we're dealing with a what year did this movie come out?
60 something.
He won an award for the 63, and it's based on a book.
Well, yeah, we're looking forward to it. So, yeah, I guess there's nothing really much else to say about this one. So, I guess I'll see you next week, Ryan, and folks out there, we'll see you next week.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye, folks.
Bye-bye.
Before we were married, he had few interests. He used to spend the greater part of each day at his club. I felt that such a life was unhealthy and persuaded him to come and live here in the country.